All right, welcome everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Emily Siegel and I work in the marketing department at Hebrew SeniorLife. I'm so glad you could join us today to learn more about how Hebrew SeniorLife supports couples with varying care needs. Today, our panel includes members of our leadership team, residents, and professional partners. At the end of our presentation, we will have a few minutes for questions. You should all see a questions icon box at the bottom of your screen. Please feel free to submit questions throughout the presentation today, and we will answer them at the end of our program. To get things started, I'd like to introduce Aline Rousseteau. Aline serves as Executive Director of Orchard Cove, a Hebrew SeniorLife Continuum of Care retirement community in Canton. Aline is passionate about supporting the best lives of our seniors and serves the seniors she serves through person-directed, innovative programming that allowed Orchard Cove residents to live their best life. Aline also serves as a chair of the Board of Trustees for Leading Age Massachusetts, a trade association dedicated to supporting the work of not-for-profit aging providers. Aline, I will now turn the floor over to you.
Thank you, Emily, and welcome everybody. I am so thrilled to be together, although I still have not gotten used to the fact that we are now together on these Zoom platforms, but it's a pleasure to be able to do so, and I do look forward to the day that we can be all together in a room. So I hope you'll consider today's presentation with a rain check for a visit. As Emily just said, I am Aline Rousseteau, and I am honored to serve as the Executive Director of one of the Hebrew SeniorLife Continuing Care retirement communities. It's a very exciting day at Orchard Cove today as we prepare to administer the vaccine to about 420 individuals tomorrow, a real emotional day for us. So there's a lot of excitement. I'm really honored to be asked to talk to you today and engage in a conversation about this important topic. I will look forward to reviewing a little bit of the options that I see in the market for couples with varying needs, but more importantly, really pass along the conversation to two amazing individuals, Rose and Bob, who are with us today and who are living the situation of having varying needs within their couples. And then Audrey, who is a wonderful friend and colleague of Hebrew SeniorLife, who is an expert in helping people really navigate these uncharted territories. So before I jump into the real topic, when Emily was kind enough to ask me to speak today, I paused and I told myself that it was actually really intriguing that the topic of couples with varying needs is such a question, because it obviously makes sense that couples age differently. We all age differently throughout our lives, but there is a reality that when couples are looking for senior living or care options that will support both individuals, it is not necessarily easy to find a perfect match. I think what tends to happen in the marketplace is the concepts that do exist tend to be very tailored to a very specific need that a person presents. And often concepts are tailored to really try to fix and address the need. One concept that I tend to be very passionate about in my career is that I like to think about the conversation entirely differently. I like to start and ask people, what is truly important to you? What brings you joy? What do you like to do? What do you want to do more of in your life? And take that, and I call it what matters most, as the foundation to searching for the perfect option to support you and your spouse as you age. So in a certain way, rather than thinking about trying to fix a problem that somebody is presenting with and trying to really figure out what solution may or may not exist on the market, take a moment to think about it differently and lead with what really is important to you. And you might find that finding a solution in the market will be different because of that shift in thinking. Something else that comes to mind when I think about this topic is planning. Very interestingly, throughout life, we all plan. Our parents plan for our education and our schooling. We plan for our finding someone special in our life and maybe getting married. We plan to go to college. We plan to have children. We plan for a lot of things. But for some reason, planning for retirement tends to be a little more of a sensitive topic. And we find that a lot of people actually don't do much planning and tend to address the topic when a need arises. And when the need arises, it's often difficult to find the right solution because it becomes a little bit of a crisis. So just remember, planning is an extraordinary thing to do when you are facing a situation where you might be looking for a solution for your aid, for supporting you in your aging process. And really, it's usually, it becomes too late when it's not too early. It always feels like it's too early. I really don't need to think about this. And all of a sudden it becomes too late and options are really limited. Emily, I think we can skip to the next slide, or maybe I'm not seeing the slides. Great, thank you. And when you do think about planning, I'll put in one more little plug. Try to really focus your planning on what is important to you and what will really make a difference in your life, rather than thinking about a problem that you have and something that you are trying to fix. Leading with what's important to you tends to make a big difference, as I just suggested. The next slide will talk a little bit about the different types of environment that we tend to see in the marketplace. I won't review them in depth because you probably are familiar with some of them. Some organizations offer independent living environments, and those are environments that really cater to an individual that needs very little support. Those environments might have a combination of housing, perhaps a little bit of programming, perhaps a little bit of dining, but environments where older adults tend to live together under the same roof and form some social connections. Another form of living is assisted living. At Orchard Cove, we call it enhanced living. That is an environment where individuals receive a little bit of support in their daily living activities. Depending on the environment, people can get more or less, people can purchase more or less, but an environment where somebody might get support in the morning, reminding themselves to take their medication, taking a shower, perhaps it'll help getting dressed, perhaps help making a bed, perhaps help just remembering to attend a program. So an environment that has some support, but not support around the clock. Some environments are really catered to individuals that have some cognitive changes. Those environments are often referred to as memory care assisted living. And in those environments, you will really find individuals who have a similar type of, call it disability or need, that the organization will support and try to make their lives as simple and easy as possible. And then you have environments that are more healthcare heavy. Those tend to be called skilled nursing, long-term care. Those are environments that people can go to for a short-term stay, just from some rehabilitation after a hospitalization, maybe when one spouse of a couple wants to travel but does not feel safe leaving their spouse at home. That individual perhaps would go for a respite stay in a nursing home, or an environment where people really live and receive intensive support from a nursing team to address their needs. Some individuals will decide to stay at home and to receive what we call home and community-based services. So those would be services that will come right into your home. Those could be nursing services, nursing assistant services, help in the shower, help keeping company to an individual. So those types of services are definitely very available and accessible in the market. They can tend to become expensive if you need a lot of them throughout the day. And then there is the option of continuing care retirement communities, which in my opinion tend to be a pretty extraordinary solution for couples with varying needs. And that is because a continuing care retirement community really offers a continuum of care that is accessible at different points in your aging process. So as a couple with varying needs moves into a continuing care retirement community, they can each access different parts of the continuum to support them. Those communities are also called life plan communities. They tend to have a buy-in option and a monthly service fee. So it's a little bit of a different model than a model where somebody would pay only a monthly service fee. So a buy-in and a monthly service fee. The next slide will talk a little bit about NewBridge. NewBridge is one of the 2 Hebrew SeniorLife continuing care retirement communities. As you'll see in the screen in front of you, what matters most, the person, the resident moving into a continuum of care, is at the center of the equation. That is the person that is moving in with the intent of receiving services. When people move into a continuing care retirement community, they traditionally move into the independent living section of our communities. However, we have assisted living, enhanced living, have a lot of different services that are available in a continuum of care that really follow the individual as their aging takes place and as their needs change. So a lot of people say, well, how do I even begin? And the next slide will tell us a little bit about what do you want to do when you go and think about a continuing care retirement community with the continuum of care as an option for your support in your aging. The first thing I always say is go and visit the community. It is just essential to walk into the building. And I hear people say this all the time. I walked through the doors and I knew this community was meant for me. Get a feel for the community. Talk to the staff. Ask them maybe about their status. Is it a for-profit organization, a not-for-profit organization? What type of healthcare services do they have? What is included in their monthly fee? What type of programs do they have? Do they survey their residents to get a sense of resident engagement and the satisfaction of residents with the services of the community? Can you have lunch with residents who live in the community? Can you review their residence and care agreement? All of these communities are quite different, both in their offering, but really in their feel and their setup. And going to actually to the community and getting a sense of it is really important. The next slide talks a little bit about couples with varying needs. So obviously, when you're visiting a continuing care retirement community, if the support of both spouses is what you're really looking for, it will be really important to hone into the services and the different levels of care that are offered in the community. You might want to ask about living options. What happens when spouses with varying needs move into the community? Do they live together in an apartment and receive services from the continuing care retirement community? Do people live in different levels or different environment of the continuum of care? How does a community support you in making the decision about the type of healthcare services that you might benefit from accessing? Who makes decisions? Who helps you navigate those options? How are residents' voices listened to in these situations that can be very difficult and emotional? So try to pry in a little bit more about how, in particular, this community will help you as a couple with varying needs navigate the support that you are seeking from the community. Now, I just wanted to say before I turn this over to our wonderful guest on the next slide, maybe just talk a little bit about why I believe Hebrew SeniorLife in particular is an extraordinary option for those couples with varying needs. So Hebrew SeniorLife is an organization that has been around for 113 years. I like to think of us as a relentlessly innovative organization. We never settle for the status quo. We never say, this is what we do, this is what we have, and let's think about how you will fit into our program. what we really like to think about is a culture of flexibility, a culture where we talk to you and think about what's important. And because we are an organization that provides a variety of different support services for older adults, from skilled nursing and long-term care, assisted living, subsidized housing, continuing care, retirement community, home and community-based services, a large research branch in our organization. All of the support services in our continuing care retirement communities are not only available to the individuals who live in our community, but they are actually fully integrated and coordinated. So as an individual moves into a community that belongs to Hebrew SeniorLife, they have access to our own primary care services and clinics. They have access to our own home care services, to our own hospice services, palliative services, therapy programs, and all of those disciplines work together as one organization to really support the older adults in the aging process and making sure that all of their needs and what's truly important to them is supported by the organization. So that's a little bit in a very, very quick introduction about a little bit of what is available on the market, why I believe couples with varying needs are really very well supported in a continuing care retirement community, and why I believe Hebrew SeniorLife in particular is very well positioned to support those individuals that have varying needs. So I am going to now turn this over to Bob, and Bob is going to tell us a little bit about his experience. Bob was pretty incredible in making the decision of moving to NewBridge on the Charles this fall in the midst of a pandemic with his wonderful wife, Alba. And Bob, thank you for telling us a little bit about who you are, why you and Alba made the decision of moving to NewBridge on the Charles, and also what your experience has been so far.
How's that?
Perfect.
Perfect. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Bob Tuttenauer, and amongst other things, I am a resident of NewBridge on the Charles. In my planning, we talked about planning just a while ago, I had never planned to be a resident of any facility such as this. Alba and I have had really a long and happy life. We have 3 grown daughters, and we have 7 grandchildren, and we have 3 great grandchildren, and 1 more is on the way. It's a supportive and fractious family that is very close, and we lived a great life together. Though they live in different parts of the country, we managed to see them quite often, and I managed to take them on family trips for many years, which sort of added to our relationship. Alba was diagnosed, excuse me for this, was diagnosed with a form of dementia called primary progressive aphasia. I'm not going to necessarily get into that. It is, I think the operative word there is progressive. It is a progressive disease. This was about 10 years ago. It begins as a memory issue, and it morphs into issues of cognitive ability, and hopefully it doesn't progress quickly, but sometimes it does. And Alba's has not progressed that quickly, though it might be accelerating now. It was an unfortunate thing for us, but we, Alba and I and our daughters, really didn't let it interfere with our lives. We traveled a great deal. We have a condominium in a lovely area in Sarasota in Florida. We love opera and dance and theater and going out to dine. I like that more than Alba likes that, but she comes along. And my feeling was that that's how we were going to live our life. I didn't need any help, and I was not looking for any guidance. I just felt that I could take care of whatever had to be taken care of. And we lived that way for quite a while. We lived in a lovely home in the Berkshires on a beautiful pond. We had a dog, we had good friends, and life was good. What was happening as we began to age, though, I think of myself as the perennial juvenile, but even as I was beginning to age, I began to be concerned about how Alba would be cared for as her disease progressed. And how are we going to do this? There was not going to be any issue with our family. My daughters assured me, and they didn't have to, that they were going to take care of their mom, and there was not going to be an issue there. But I wasn't fully happy with that. I didn't think that they should have, even as lovely as they are, that burden of even thinking about taking care of a parent, though people used to live this way all the time. In any event, I started to look into retirement communities that offered additional services. And I didn't care for them. I just didn't care for the environment. I didn't care for seeing people walking around with walkers. In fact, most of the people I saw were probably younger than me. And began to do some research. Fortunately, we have someone in our family relationship that is associated with Hebrew SeniorLife and talked to me about NewBridge. And we went to visit it, Alba and myself, and one or two of my daughters, or they came at different times. My daughters and I form a team. They are part of my board of directors. So the decisions that we have started to make as I age is a collaborative decision. They're part of it. And so I wanted them to see what we were getting into and to advise and consent, to use a political term, since it's such a sensitive thing today. So we went to see NewBridge, and we met with Sheila Waxman, who you will be talking to later on. And I liked it. It's a lovely community, beautifully done. I was told that it was one of the top communities of this type. I did some research online, and I visited no other independent living assisted. I visited nothing. I was not really interested in shopping. I really was looking, if we were going to do this, I was looking for the best. Now, what the best was, I wasn't sure. I wasn't sure what my needs were. I didn't think I had too many needs. My daughters thought I had particular needs, as did friends. What I particularly liked, one of the things about NewBridge, initially, my background has been all in sales and marketing, was the fact that I was so struck with the fact that they were interested in me as a person. They were just not selling a condominium, and I would sense that, being an experienced businessman and being empathetic, I would have sensed that they weren't. They really felt that a place like this has to really be right for the people coming in. They have to feel good about what is being offered to them. And I felt good about the fact that they were interested in me and Alba and my daughters. They were interested in us as to what we were going to do. And we proceeded to have this kind of discussion for a while. And I didn't make any decision. I was not particularly interested in the financial aspect of it because I was not prepared in my mind to do anything. This was an exploratory kind of thing because I felt that I might have to sort of transition to something like this. Well, Alba progressed in the issue that she was facing, fighting it, but progressing. And I started to give this a great deal of thought. I have always been a great planner as far as business is concerned. I have not been a great planner as far as my life is concerned because I didn't have to. We were able to do whatever we wanted to do. So I never planned to do this kind of thing, but now, what was the most important thing for me aside from the quality of our life? The most important thing for me was that if something were to happen to me, even though I think, as I mentioned before, that I am the perennial juvenile, if something were to happen to me, what will happen with Alba? My daughter said, not to worry, we'll take care of mommy. But I didn't care for that idea particularly, though it was certainly reassuring and loving. This type of situation that we have here in NewBridge, we are in independent living, as was explained previously to you. We can migrate from facility to facility as the need arises. So Alba would be cared for the rest of her life if something happened to me. And in that interim period, even though this was not the lifestyle that I particularly aspired to, NewBridge offered a lot, aside from the fact that we were dealing with the problems of the COVID. They had theater and they had dance and they had music and they had lectures and they had a community of people who were intellectually challenging. It was an exciting kind of community, I thought, that would be positive for me. So we made the decision to do this, and I decided to do it now because I wanted to get into a community that Alba could acclimate herself into while she was aware of acclimating herself into it. Not that it would be something that at some particular point in time when things were really difficult, all of a sudden I would bring her to a new environment. Let her get used to it in independent living. We had friends who lived here before, and so let's do it. The fact that we had the virus, who knew when that was going to end? NewBridge has done an excellent job in dealing with it. In fact, is noted by the state as one of the examples of how to deal with the COVID situation. And so we moved in, and the people that we met, both the staff, which is extraordinary. I know about extraordinary staff had worked for the Ritz-Carlton Hotel Company. These were people who were seemingly and actually interested in us as people. They were warm and friendly and professional. The residents welcomed us. We developed relationships, not all that many. It was tough because you didn't see many people all the time, but we had Zoom dinners and Zoom lectures, and that's what we do now. We participate that way. Our ability to join on every level is there, and I am more than content. NewBridge actually exceeded my expectation. My expectations were not necessarily high. My preoccupation was Alba, and she is comfortable here. She's comfortable. There is no stress. People are great. I have the ability to talk to people such as you, which I think is also wonderful. We'll probably go to Florida in a short while after we get our vaccinations so that we can be safe in that environment, which is not necessarily great at this point. And that's basically my story. I'm certainly open to any and all questions.
Bob, thank you. I appreciate your sharing this story. I appreciate the sharing of the planning that took place in your life and how you figured out that it was actually time for you and Alba to settle in a different environment and allow her to do that while she was able to do that, the support of your family. I'm also really inspired to hear from you what it felt like to move to a community during a pandemic and how you were really able to find a lot of quality of life and really discover what a continuing care retirement community is all about, and those connections and those relationships and the programs and the services that are offered. So thank you for sharing that. And I know that we're going to keep questions for in a moment. Before we do that, I wanted to turn this over to Rose. Rose is very close to me, right at Orchard Cove. And Rose, you have a little bit of a different story to share with us, where you and David made the decision to move to Orchard Cove. And very sadly, David passed away a while ago. Yet I think we've all been inspired by how you and David were both able to really take advantage of a continuum of care in a community such as Orchard Cove. So let me turn this over to you, Rose. And don't forget to unmute yourself.
Hello, my name is Rose Radaziner. I have lived here at Orchard Cove for 3 years now. Hard to believe, it's gone by so quickly. When David and I moved in, it was just about 3 years ago. We were in our car driving home and we had an accident. He lost control of the car and we were fortunate in that there were no other cars on the road. We rammed into a hydrant, and shortly thereafter, the police arrived and we said we were all right, but they insisted that since he was the driver, he should go to the hospital. And so when we got there, they felt they wanted to do some testing and keep him overnight. Well, while I was waiting there, I called my daughters who lived on the South Shore, and they came within an hour to see their father and to sit with me. So I was talking to them about the fact that it took them nearly an hour to get to us, and I felt that that was too far away in case, heaven forbid, there was another occasion that was similar to that one. So they took me home and I talked about us moving a little closer, and we had friends who were at Orchard Cove and we had been here several times and been quite impressed with the surroundings and the meals, the dining room, just about everything. And they were very happy here. And we also had good friends at NewBridge where we visited. We liked Orchard Cove. We thought it was warm and friendly. People would talk to us before we even moved in about when are you moving, where are you going to be, and we'll have to have dinner together. And so that was really very nice. We moved into independent living. I forgot to mention that David had the beginning of dementia. And he also had a small a tumor in his lung that we kept track of by having frequent x-rays. We settled in very nicely. One of the things that I loved was that they set up dinner meetings with people so that we wouldn't be sitting alone at a table by ourselves. And I thought that was a wonderful idea. David went to a couple of things by himself, a minion group that meets daily, and current events. So while he went off to those things, I could be busy with other things. And we went on some wonderful trips to different museums and out to lovely restaurants. And we went to the opera, and it was wonderful to have all these friends and all these wonderful opportunities to do things and go places. As the dementia progressed, I don't remember who it was who suggested that I see Mindy, who is an in-house social worker, and she's just wonderful. So I started seeing her on a weekly basis and telling her what was going on. She made some suggestions, and I did follow through on most of them. She suggested I got an aide for David for a few hours a day, just so that he could be off somewhere and I could do whatever I wanted to do. So that didn't work out too well. And then there was a program at NewBridge for people with memory issues. It was a daily program, and people from outside were welcome to go. So we went and we watched one of the programs there. I was pretty impressed with that. And so we signed him up, and he would go I think he was going 3 days a week at that time. And Orchard Cove provided the transportation to and from NewBridge. Then there was another, and I forgot to mention another wonderful thing they did was send somebody out to our home to look at our furniture, and she laid things out on she had this map of the apartment and where we could put everything and what could go, what couldn't go. And that was a wonderful service too. So it was time to have another x-ray to check out how the tumor was. And it wasn't, the results were not good at that point. Mindy and Dr. B and other staff members met with us and discussed what to look forward to, how things were going to go, and they felt that we should move to enhanced living where there would be more services available for David, because he was going to need hospice and oxygen and other kinds of assistance. This was kind of a shock because I wasn't expecting anything like that to happen, but I felt that these were people who knew they had been through other happenings like this, and they felt that I should be somewhere where I could have some extra help for him. And so we didn't take too long to think about that. We felt that that was a good decision, and we, with the help of all these wonderful people who were giving us guidance, we should take advantage of it. And so we did. We moved upstairs, and everyone there was wonderful, so caring and kind. I remember that Emily brought me a beautiful flowering plant that was just so thoughtful. So we did get a hospice in, and they were outstanding. They told me what to expect and how things were going to work, and somebody came to see him, usually somebody different every day. They were checking for this and that and the other, and they were also providing entertainment for him. Someone who came with a guitar who would sing some songs that they thought he would enjoy, and someone else just to spend time with him. I felt kind of stuck because I didn't have any time to myself. And so they offered different people who were outstanding. I just so kind and caring. So that way I could get away for a little while. And unfortunately, things progressed far more quickly than we anticipated. We were upstairs only 7 weeks before he passed away. But I couldn't have been more grateful to all those people who helped me, to Orchard Cove, who knew how things were going to go and tried to reassure me, and to hospice, which was, excuse me, just outstanding. And I decided, since I had the option to stay up here on the third floor, I'm pretty independent. I can come and go as I please, except now when we're all kind of stuck inside. But staff is just wonderful. There isn't anything that's too hard for them. And I can always have the opportunity to go to anybody I want for help, which is usually Mindy. So that's about it.
Thank you, Rose. I really appreciate your sharing your story and your emotions, and I appreciate hearing about how you and David, moved into Orchard Cove at a time where you obviously both had different needs, and from what I know, witnessing it firsthand and your story, you really both were able to find what a balance in your life and some freedom and enjoy what was important. And then sadly, as his health changed, you really are a beautiful testimony to the power of a community, a continuing care retirement community where all of these services work together to support individuals. So thank you. I wish I could run up right now to give you a real hug.
I could use one.
Yeah, we all could, and you right now. So thank you. I'm going to pass this over to Audrey. Audrey Zabin, a life care manager. I just love that title. I think it just makes the world feel better just by saying it. And Audrey, you dedicate your life and your career to really helping individuals that are looking for solutions to support them as they age. So thank you for sharing your passion and wisdom with us.
Thank you so much, Aileen, and thank you all. It's nice to be here with all of you, and you are right, it's a passion of mine. As a life care manager, for those of you who do not know, I am a licensed social worker by training and have focused my social work practice in the field of care management, and there's a certification to be a care manager. And what we do as care managers is we act as consultants to elders or adult disabled on issues of care and housing and what I call quality of life issues. Very important as we age. Now, I feel I'm in a very good company to say I've been doing this a long time, been around for 20 plus years, but when you work in elder care, you're forever young. So that's been another joy for me. I have to say Bob is the eternal juvenile, right? But I have been working in the field of elder care here in Boston for over 20 years. And I think I can safely say the good news is also the bad news. The good news is I think over those 23 years, there have been a lot more options for elder care. It's been wonderful watching the elder care market grow. The difficulty with that, or the bad news of that, is that making decisions, if you're a senior making a life transition today, it becomes more difficult because there are more options. It becomes more confusing. And if you can imagine being a caregiver yourself already, the whole idea of making another life transition can be confusing, intimidating, and really overwhelming. So the good news is we have more options. The bad news is it can be overwhelming, or as my husband likes to say, Audrey, that's why you still have a job, because you're helping people with all these options. So what I can tell you today is people always say to me, how do you plan? How do you know? Do you have a crystal ball, Audrey, to tell me what I'm going to need 10 years from now, 15 years from now? And of course, I don't. My mother might have told people I do, but I don't. Okay. So how do you plan if you don't know what your needs are? Well, I think, both Rose and Bob spoke to this very genuinely. And for me as a care manager, I'm going to support what they said and tell you that you really need to begin to look at your likes, your dislikes, your comfort, and what's important to you all as individuals. I cannot tell you the number of people I work with who will say to me, well, I want to move to this place because someone I know who knows someone I know who knows someone I know said it's the best place. Okay, well, how do you know you're going to like it? You have to go and visit it yourself. And if you remember what I said to you earlier about what's so nice is we have options, that also means that you have to individualize your decision to you, not to the friend of the friend of the friend who likes that place, but you go yourself and visit it and make sure it answers what you like. It's individualized for you. What I like as a care manager is when someone comes to me, I can begin to know with more assurance now where there'll be a successful placement because I know what someone's likes and dislikes are, and I'm better able to place them, which is another way of saying that when Bob went to Hebrew SeniorLife and met with Sheila, she looked at him as an individual. She wanted to make sure what he was important to him was here for him in the community he was choosing. And that's what you all want to do for yourselves as well. I can tell you that as an experienced care manager, that's one of the most important ways to make your decision. The other good news about the good news of options today is that there are so many options. And again, because we don't have a crystal ball and we don't know what's going to happen, as we age, it is very important that you allow more options of care into your life and not less. So let me repeat that. As we age, because we don't know what our needs are going to be, hybrid couple or not, it's very important wherever you move or make a new transition that you have more options for care than less. So, Bob may have moved to NewBridge for his wife, Alba. God forbid, poo-poo a million times, you fall and break your hip, right? And you have to go into a rehab. At least you know where you're going to go, that you'll be at NewBridge rehabbing and your partner will be there with you. There's an option there. And when you make such an important transition as another move, make sure your move offers you as many options for care as possible. We know today in elder care that one glove does not fit all. So I want to I often will say to families, I liken it to a college tour. So we know that UMass Amherst is a wonderful college, right? But it may not be the right college for every student. And it is the same thing when you move to a senior community. Although such and such a place may have a beautiful chandelier, you want to go beyond that. You want to go and make sure that it's a good fit for you. And you can do that today because there's so many options for you. Please keep in mind that when you do start shopping for this new transition of care, that you look at places that have multiple care options as well. For me, I work for myself. I don't work for any community. I'm that independent third-party professional. And I can only tell you that these are the two lessons that I have learned, that I hope I have given you today, that you want to always leave your options open and that you always want to have the most individualized plan of care for yourself, what feels good to you. So with that, I think I'm turning it over to Emily for
Yes.
some more questions now.
Yeah. Thank you so much,
Thank you.
Audrey.
Thank you.
We have had a few questions come in through the chat box, and if people have questions, please feel free to, continue to submit them. So I will go ahead and read off some of the questions that we've had so far, and then we can go from there. So I think the first question is for Aline. Can you maybe give a few examples of how we handle different needs when a couple is in an independent living apartment? So if a couple of varying care needs is currently living in an independent living apartment, some examples of how we would handle their different needs of care.
Sure. And I'm probably going to summarize a little bit of what we've said, and Audrey, that you just expressed so eloquently right now. We would start by really having conversations with the couple with varying needs about what truly is important to them. So in a continuing care retirement community, especially those with Hebrew SeniorLife's coordinated and integrated different services, I would say there are a lot of options. So some options are that both spouses would live in independent living, and depending on what one of the spouses might need, that service could be brought into the apartment if that's what you would like to do. Some individuals decide, and this is probably more like Rose's case, to move through the continuum of care because they would benefit from living in an environment where the support services are richer. Some couples decide that, and Bob, that actually you doing the same thing by living in living with Alba and knowing that the continuum of care will be available when needed. Some couples decide that their quality of life, their combined quality of life, would be better if the individuals live in different environments. So some couples decide to live in separate environments, either on a short or a long-term basis. So it's really a question of making sure that you understand what the need is, and then making sure that the services that will help you meet that need are available in the community and are accessible to you. And then I think both Bob and Rose have pointed it out, in a continuing care retirement community or with the support of someone like Audrey, really helping you make the decision of how to coordinate all of those services to best support you. So not like a community like Orchard Cove or NewBridge would tell you, okay, so this is happening, so this is what we're going to do for you. We will help you make the best decision.
Great. And as just a follow-up to that, if a couple comes in with, no needs at the time of entry, and then over time, one couple progresses at a different speed, what's the process look like in terms of support? Would they have to move to assisted living or enhanced living necessarily? How do we work with couples to make sure that, their needs and what they're looking for is something we can met if couples want to stay together, or maybe if it's best to move apart? If you could shed some light on that, I think that would be helpful.
Sure, and the situation you're describing is obviously the ideal situation, and what Bob was talking to is really moving to a continuum of care when you don't have needs, but you are moving because you know that there will be services available when you do. Some people have a shorter period of time without the need of services. So I would say my answer is really the same. We have extraordinary groups of staff. Both NewBridge and Orchard Cove have a primary care practice. So there's a primary care physician, there's social workers, there are resident services coordinators. So there are a lot of staff members that are there to help you make the decision of the services that would be supportive of the need that you have. So again, there's no fixed solution, there's no community telling you what to do, but rather really figuring out what type of services can be either brought to you or could be accessible to you to help you really lead the best life that you're seeking in our community.
Wonderful, thank you. Another question that's come in is, how does a couple know when the right time to begin to look at a continuing care retirement community may be. And Audrey or Aline, if one of you might want to answer that.
Okay. I think there are two things that are always important. One is safety, right? Safety is paramount. If you if one of you is sick, you have to be safe living at home. And if you're not, it's time to look at another option. And the second is you look at your quality of life. And if you are exhausted being a caregiver and have no time for yourself, that may also be a time to look for other options. There's several reasons why people move. Sometimes they move to be closer to family. And at that time, maybe it's time to move to a senior community. If you're making a move anyway, that's a good time to do it. Sometimes people do need support. Sometimes people are feeling isolated as caregivers and want to move to a community. I think it, again, is very individualized on a person's. It's about safety and quality of life.
Audrey, I'm also going to reiterate what Bob shared, because I hear so many people say that this is a gift to their family members, to their adult children, to whomever will be there to support their aging process, to really not want their lives to become a burden. And, I think, as we were talking about at the beginning, the earlier you start planning, the earlier you look at your options and know about your options, I often find the more successful a decision making and a move.
Thank you, Aline. So it looks like that's all the questions that have come in right now. I know some people have been emailing or chatting privately asking for more information, and we will make sure to follow up after the program. And just to end, I do want to introduce Sheila Waxman, who is our Director of Sales at NewBridge on the Charles, just to leave us with some parting words.
Well, thank you. I'm so glad to always be part of these wonderful seminars, because we are primarily an organization that wants to educate others about all of the options that we have, and to pick up on how Aline so eloquently spoke about what we offer both at NewBridge and Orchard Cove. I want to reiterate the following for all of you who may be on this seminar and have questions going forward. That when she speaks about the innovation of Hebrew SeniorLife, we really welcome all of you listening to be in touch with us, to ask us questions, to help us educate you, and to even offer ideas about how you see your future as you age and what we might offer you, because we're always willing to listen and learn. Just as we're asking you to listen and learn, we like to listen and learn also. So please be in touch with us and feel free to engage in any way that you feel we can help you.
Thank you, Sheila. And I just want to thank everyone again for joining us today, especially our panelists and the wealth of information you were able to provide everyone. And again, I know people are still submitting questions, and we will be sending up a follow-up survey to this webinar, and would be happy to put you in touch with the appropriate people here at Hebrew SeniorLife, or perhaps with Audrey, to get you the information you need. So thank you for joining us. Everyone have a wonderful afternoon, and we hope to see you again soon.